let us go into the details of operations that are happening inside an airport. There are so many aspects, so many operations that will be there in an airport. One major activity is ground handling. Let us understand what is ground handling.
Dear students, the learning outcomes of this program includes to elaborate the ground handling activities in air side of an airport, to explain the activities involved in preparing an aircraft for a next flight after arrival in an airport, to explain the passenger handling activities within airport terminal, and to identify the activities involved in cargo management in an airport. So these are the primary learning objectives or the outcomes so as far as this unit is concerned.
Ground handling deals with all the activities that are to be undertaken in order to prepare an aircraft for a next flight. After landing, a flight will be landing, then after that flight will be entering into the taxi area. That flight will be taxiing to the ramp and it will be parking on the ramp. After parking on the ramp, the engines will be, by the time the engines will be off, and the staff will be ready for taking all the services, required services for the flight to make it ready for the next flight. So a series of activities will be happening when the flight is parked on the ramp. Every airline prefers to have less turnaround time as they aim to utilize each aircraft maximum for economic reasons. So a flight, if it is getting ready for the next flight in half an hour, so the airline will be more happy because they can utilize this flight for the next sector. This would have been planned in advance because schedule would have been prepared much in advance. But still, delays can be avoided. It can be ready for the next flight. It can reach the destination early as well. So ground handling is very important. They have to make everything ready, and it has to be done on a very perfect and efficient manner. There are two types of ground handling in an airport. One is self-handling, in which the respective airline choose to provide services for it. An airline, for example, Air India. In India, Air India has its own system of flight handling, ground handling. So they have separate staff for that. They will be undertaking all the ground handling activities. But when Air India is flying to another country, in that region, Air India may not be having their own ground handling system. They cannot have their own ground handling staff. So they may engage some other agencies for undertaking their ground handling activities. So when it is self-handling, that means airlines will be having their own facilities for arranging ground handling activities. But this may not be feasible in all the airports. But in hub airports, airlines may have self-handling of ground services. For example, Air India has its own ground self-handling activities, ground handling activities in Mumbai as well as in Delhi. Emirates is having its own ground handling activities in Dubai because Dubai is the hub for Emirates. Etihad has its own ground handling activities in Abu Dhabi because Abu Dhabi is the hub airport for the Etihad Airways. The second source, the first one is self-handling, the second one is outsourcing. Outsourcing is a kind of contracting. They contract a third party for undertaking all these ground handling activities. So outsourcing or contracting with a third party is a very common practice nowadays because by this airlines can save certain money. They need to make agreement with somebody, but they don't have to employ anyone for this. They don't have to purchase machines and other parts for this. There are different kinds of utensils, different kinds of vehicles are required, different kinds of machines are required, different kinds of things are required for undertaking ground handling activities. These can be saved by the airlines. They need to provide the required fee for undertaking this as part of outsourcing. If it is outsourcing, in this case the airline will make agreement with the other agency that they will be a specialist in ensuring ground handling activities. In between, we discussed a term called turnaround time. What is turnaround time? What are the turnaround activities? It is also called gate occupancy time. It represents the time taken for preparing an aircraft for the next departure after the arrival at the gate site. So, flight after landing will be reaching up to the ramp area. They will park it, so that will be near the arrival gate. so that the passengers can be offloaded, cargo can be offloaded, everything can be done. By the time other things like refueling can be done, water filling can be done, electricity supply can be provided, then passengers can be boarded again for the next flight. All sort of activities can be done in that particular time. So minimum an airline or airport would be requiring on an average half an hour to 40 minutes, up to 1 hour it may take. So if turnaround time is less, then it will be good for airlines. They can avoid delays and they can have very perfect, very punctual services. Then efficient RAM handling. RAM handling represents all the kind of ground handling activities that are there when the aircraft is on the ramp, on the apron. It involves all the activities when an aircraft arrives at the ramp or apron till it departs for the flight, and they ensure efficient turnaround of aircraft and in turn helps in maintaining the schedules of airlines. So this has a lot of significance for an airline, because airline has to ensure that the services are punctually being undertaken. So ground handling activities and turnaround activities have to be efficient and they have to be time bound as well. It is very important. Deplaning is all about disembarking the passengers from a flight, offloading the passengers from a flight. Once it is landed, once it is parked, they will open the doors and there will be maybe ladders or there may be connecting to the gate area, and the passengers can move out from the aircraft. So that is what is called as deplaning. Boarding is, once the aircraft is ready for boarding the passengers, they will invite the passengers into the flight. A series of activities will be done inside the aircraft once the arriving passengers are offloaded or deplaned. So for example, cleaning, then providing refreshments inside, etc. Different kinds of things will be undertaken inside. The seat has to be ready. The pockets behind the seats, there will be pockets for keeping certain things like instructional materials and magazines and the other kind of periodicals will be kept over there. So these kind of things have to be done before the boarding is beginning. So let us see what are the ground handling activities. One is the aircraft will be stopping the aircraft. Then the engines will be stopped. The pilots will be stopped. Then it will be having the capacity to suck in whatever is there in front of it. It can suck in people, it can suck in anything, because it sucks in all the air in front of it, and through the machine it will be getting grinded and it will go out. That kind of accidents can happen. Then by the time the passenger bridges have to be positioned, these bridges are required for deplaning as well as boarding of the passengers. Power supply has to be provided. When the aircraft is parked, there won't be electricity inside, so they have to provide electricity, power supply. Air conditioning is also to be done, because the flight will not be having power, so naturally it will not be having AC services as well. So external air conditioning service will be done when the flight is over. The passenger deplaning is an important activity. Then the cargo and baggage have to be unloaded. So there will be vehicles and other things waiting for that. Once it is landed, once it is parked, then they will open the bulk area of the particular area where the cargo and the baggage is stored, and all the things whatever are supposed to be offloaded there, they'll take it out, they'll keep it in the vehicle, and the vehicle will move to the terminal area wherever it is supposed to be transported to. The airplane will be checked. Outside check will be there, visual check will be there. Engineers and others will move around and verify whether there is any kind of trouble for the fuselage, for the body of the aircraft, or for the tires or anything, wheels or whatever, or any other parts of the body. Then service lavatories inside. There are lavatories inside the flight, so naturally whatever is there they need to remove, and fresh water has to be filled and all things have to be done. It has to be cleaned also. Galleys have to be inside, because that food have to be stored inside. So galleys will be arranged properly once the flight is there in the parking area. Then the cabin will be serviced, cleaning will be done, the dust will be sucked in, then potable water will be supplied inside. Potable water means drinking water, so that is also required inside. Then aircraft fueling, refueling is very important. The aircraft has to have enough fuel for the flying, for the entire sector. Usually they will be having extra fuel as well. It's not the fuel just required for reaching a particular airport. We will be having for maybe another half an hour. That all depends upon aircraft to airport. That will be varied. But still extra fuel will be there. And not only that extra half an hour fuel, but it may be fuel for reaching from that particular destination air to the next airport also. That will also be there. So extra fuel will be loaded apart from the fuel required for the completing the sector. Cargo and baggage loading is next activity. Then engines will be started, power supply will be removed, then bridges will be removed. Then pushback activity. Pushback is very important. Usually there will be a tractor kind of vehicle. It will be connecting one road with the flight, and it will push the aircraft back until it reaches the taxiway. Once it is reaching the taxiway, it will get positioned into taxi, and it will move up to the runway area. Once it is entered into the runway, then engines will be on again, and all the thrust and lift required, it will be provided by the engines and the wings, and it will move for the takeoff. While the aircraft is at the ramp, the energy requirements will be fulfilled by supplying necessary power for the next flight. So extra supply, power supply is usually part of it. It has to be proper, dot sheet and everything has to be there, so that everything is loaded in a proper manner, scientific manner. The baggage has to be loaded in a very proper way, otherwise it can create troubles while the flight is flying. Refueling of an aircraft for the subsequent trip is an activity to be done with utmost care and safety considerations. Two types of fuel are most commonly used at airports. For example, the most common fuel is ATF, aviation turbine fuel. It's also called jet fuel, and there are a number of different grades for that. That grades depending upon the aircraft type. Jet engines are using aviation turbine fuel. Aviation gasoline, avgas, is also used. It is intended for use in reciprocating piston engine aircraft. As with jet fuel, different grades are available for this as well. Nowadays, biogas and other kinds of alternative sources are also used for as fuel for the aircraft. Pushback is an important one. As I said, it represents the action of moving an airplane from a passenger terminal to a runway or taxiway into a position where it can use its own engines. Until then, this tractor kind of vehicle, that's a very specially designed vehicle actually. It will be pushing, the engines will be on. Until that time, the engines will be kept off. Once passengers are boarded, the aircraft can plan to push back. Every employee must be aware of the readiness for pushback. So they give the signal, and they announce also that the engine, the vehicle, the aircraft is ready for moving. After landing, the gate arrival is an important area. During gate arrival of incoming aircraft, the necessary ground crew has to assemble in the gate area, and by the time the amber beacon should be on, so that other vehicles and others won't reach that area. The essential ground crew consists of marshaller, then and two vehicles in around that area should be alerted and ensure that none is on the way. So that area has to be empty, apart from the people that are required for turnaround activities. Once the aircraft clears the roadway, let the ground service personnel wait till the engines are off, along with switching off the anti-collision light red beacon. Further measures have to be taken to ensure safety, and the deplaning and ground handling activities during turnaround, they can begin by then. Winter operations is an important thing in some of the airports. It may not be a very important activity in the airports in India, because our winter seasons are not that harsh. There are some airports in India as well which require specific winter operations. But in the polar regions and near to polar regions, the airports are having very specific special activities for handling winter operations. These taxiways on the aircraft, and these can create a lot of trouble. So specialized activities and the services are required for making efficient landing, takeoff, as well as for the cleaning of all the flight and its parts, as well as the runway and other areas. Winter season can become very adverse to air traffic, and the adversity is more near or within the airports. Snow, ice, slush, these on airfield pavements and drifting snow can lead to aircraft incidents and accidents. De-icing is an activity performed in winter seasons. This is a precautionary procedure followed in airports to remove ice and snow, those items as well as related contaminants from the aircraft surfaces. So de-icing is very important activity to be done in the winter seasons in the airports. Rescue and firefighting is a very important activity at the time because accident happen once in a while. But when an accident happens, definitely the importance of this one would be very high. So there are chances for fire incidents. These are very rare, yet ensuring necessary firefighting mechanism is of utmost importance. It is mandatory for airports to ensure aerodrome rescue and firefighting services (RFFS) within airports. Next very important activity is passenger handling. Passenger handling is all about the processing of activities associated with the departing of passengers for boarding the flight for onward journey and enabling the arriving passengers to leave the airport without delay and hassles. Let us see what are the activities involved. Arrival of passengers into the airport is the entry area of the airport in the departure area. So airport will be having two areas. One is departure area, other one is arrival area. In the departure area, there will be security staff standing over there. So they will verify your travel documents, and if it is found okay, then they will let the passengers enter into the airport. So arrival of passengers is the first activity. So they may be having doubts, so there have to be staff to provide information to the people entering into the aircraft. Then check-in area is there, document verification and boarding pass issuing is another important area. Very efficient staff with good communication skill and good social skills and everything have to be there for the staff. Those are there, and they have to verify the documents and boarding pass have to be issued. Baggage check is very important. Screening of the baggage is also very important. The baggage will be weighed. Before that, the baggage will be screened. If any item which are not supposed to be carried by air flight, so they will be verifying that if something is found, they will remove those. They will ask these people the passenger to remove those, and they may be taken for further interrogation as well. Then once the boarding pass is issued, the passengers will move to the immigration counter or the passport control center where immigration officers will be sitting. They may be the people of immigration department of the country or from the police department or security services, whatever. That depends upon the country to country, it may vary. Security check is the next activity. So there are very efficient staff waiting for security check. The body check will be there. They have to pass through metal detector. They will be having handheld detecting device as well. They will verify the body. If anything untoward is identified, the passengers will be taken for further interrogation. Departure for boarding is happening once everything is okay. After security check, the passengers can wait inside the concourse. Inside the concourse, there will be refreshment centers, coffee shops, restaurants, seating spaces, and everything will be available. And very pleasing environment will be there around. They can wait for the departure information. Once it is there, nowadays airports are silent, airports are also there. There may not be announcements, so they need to verify the displays whether the flight is ready for boarding. Once the intimation is provided, then go out and you can move to the aircraft for boarding. Once the passengers reach after arrival, after the flight, then the passengers can reach the baggage claim area after immigration. Then customs clearance area is there. Customs officials are there. They will verify the baggage, and if any dutiable items are there, you need to pay the duty. After customs area, usually there are two channels. One channel is called red channel, other channel is called green channel. If it is a green channel, then definitely you may not be having any item, dutiable items that are there in your possession. If you are not having any dutiable item, you can easily pass through that green channel. If you have any dutiable item or any other item they found, with difficulty, then they will be taking you for further interrogation. If it is dutiable item, you need to pay the duty and clear everything, and you can go out from the customs area. In the departure area, departure entrance area is there. Information counters are there. The passengers can go for getting the information from different types of doubts will be there for a passenger. So definitely there will be information counters. If it is a large airport, the people when they come inside, they may not be knowing which area they have to move for check-in, where is the check-in counter for a particular airline. All these difficulties and information requirements will be there for the passengers. So information counters are there with efficient staff will be there. Check-in counters are there. Usually airline staff will be standing there. Sometimes specialized agency people are there. Sometimes they will be having an X-ray machine screening mechanism. Departure passenger immigration center is there with immigration staff. Passenger security stations are there, where metal detectors and other devices that are required, that is also there. Arrival area, passport control counters are there, baggage claim area is there, conveyor belts are there. In the conveyor belts, the baggage will be coming. Customs clearance area, exit area with commercial centers. These are the areas. Then in the customs area, the screening will be done through scanning machines. So the passenger has nothing to declare, like dutiable items. He or she can move through the green channel. If there is any item for which duty need to be paid, the passenger has to move through the red channel and pay the fee accordingly. Air cargo is a very important operation of an airline. So that is part of nowadays very important, significant part of airport as well. It's another important function of an airport. It is processed. Most of the cases it is processed in a separate terminal when there is lot of cargo operations are there. But in domestic airports and all, there may not be separate area that may be attached to one. It can be transported in passenger aircraft in its belly space or in cargo flights, because cargo is concerned. Most of the passenger aircraft, they make extra profit through cargo transportation. Passenger sitting for that will be there for the passengers to sit. So the space, there will be very designated, very good space for cargo loading and all. So that space may be called as a belly space. And there are, in most of the cases, cargo separate flights are there. Freighter airlines are also there, like DHL, that is, they have their own flights, cargo flights. So these kind of specially designed flights for moving freight and cargo, that kind of flights are also there. Mail and speed courier services are also included in air cargo services. This DHL, these kind of stuff are actually speed cargo or courier services. Freighter aircraft has access to cargo terminals, and loading of cargo will be done that particular area.
By this, let us sum up. An airport is the prime location where most air transport services are coordinated. After the landing of an aircraft, it undergoes a range of activities including passenger and cargo offloading and loading, refueling, cleaning, power supply, and similar things. All the activities together are termed ground handling activities. Before boarding, a passenger passes through a series of activities within the terminal of an airport, and those includes check-in, immigration services, security check, etc. Arriving passengers also pass through immigration services, customs clearance, and the like. Cargo handling is another major activity in most of the airports now, which help airlines to transport freight to the intended location. And by this, let us conclude.